This is a personal podcast. If you find any value in it, I ask that you please like and subscribe to continue the conversations. Any views or opinions represented in this blog are personal and belong solely to the owner and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the owner may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity, unless explicitly stated. Any view or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual, nor is it an indictment on any one agency, but rather the system as a whole. It is meant to open conversation and bring to light ways that we can all improve. Thank you for listening. Let's run through some numbers real quick. Approximately 37% of all EMS, first responders, law enforcement will develop PTSD. I think that number that is being reported is significantly lower than it actually is. I think there's a lot of first responders, law enforcement that are scared to actually self-report. Secondly, 40% of all police officers are said to be involved in domestic violence relationships at some point in time during their career. That's significantly higher than the regular population. Also, the suicide rate among law enforcement, first responders, and everything else is also significantly higher than the rest of the general population. That's because 80% of all first responders will see something traumatic over and over and over again throughout their careers. It's not post-traumatic stress, it's active traumatic stress over a 5, 10, 15, 20-year career. I give you these numbers to kind of lay the foundation about what this particular podcast is about. This particular podcast is about mental health and first responder mental health, and obviously a heavy focus on law enforcement. Due to the fact of that's what my background is, and the woman who had the courage to come and sit down and talk on my podcast is married to a law enforcement officer. She had the courage to come and sit down and discuss what's going on. The unfortunate thing is out of fear of retribution, the officer's not allowed to come and talk. And there's a lot of other officers that are in the same boat. There's a lot of other officers that can't speak up about what is going on or not going on. And I mean this on the mental health aspect. What is enough for a police department to do to care for their people? Is it to just have some sort of EAP program that the officer can call? Is it incentive programs? What is it? What is it going to take for these departments to step up and build their people up in their mental health? The number one most important thing about mental health is destigmatizing it. The person should not be in fear of losing their job, being removed from their position, whatever the case may be, if they speak up and get help for whatever they're dealing with, whether it's PTSD, anxiety, depression, financial issues at home, whatever the case is. Here's the problem. If you're not taking care of an officer's mental health, of a firefighter's mental health, a nurse, whatever the case may be, military, they're not going to be performing at their peak level. With a fractured mental health, you're going to have worse and worse encounters with the public. Worse encounters with the public is going to lead to lawsuits, could lead to a shooting, and then you're costing taxpayers, and ultimately you're costing people's lives, which is absolutely the most important thing. So what is being done by some law enforcement agencies? Is it enough? Is it not enough? What is it going to take to have an open conversation about this so that the officer who's sitting in his patrol car in between calls or on the side of the road is not thinking about the dead child that they just pulled out of the car, or the shooting that happened, or the wreck and the burned up family and all of the horrible, nasty, disgusting stuff, or the city cops that are going in and dealing with child abuse, child neglect, and the most vile, disgusting things that human beings could ever do. What is it going to take for agencies to be open enough to allow their people to voice what they're going through, to get them the resources they need to be the best possible first responder that they can be? I started this podcast exactly for this reason, because there's some young officer out there that's going to go through traumatic events, that's not going to realize he's going through traumatic events, and is going to make piss poor life decisions, which will ultimately could cost his marriage, could cost a relationship with his children, could cost his job, could ultimately cost his life. Why? All because of declining mental health that was never taken care of. Just because the department provides services doesn't mean it's enough. It has to be built from the culture within. If you're a law enforcement administrator and you watch this podcast and you get mad, you're wrong. If you're a law enforcement administrator that watches this podcast or listens to it and says, maybe we should start asking our people what we can do to help them, then you're right. And that's the message that should be taken from this. It's not all negative. There's a lot of emotion that comes through in this podcast because this woman, Danielle, who came on and spoke, loves her husband, loves her officer, and loves all of the other officers that he works with and his family. These officers didn't start off having these sorts of issues. It's happened through years and years and years of being exposed to traumatic instances that they don't deal with because they're not allowed to deal with it. Because suddenly now, mental health is the thing to talk about. It's what everybody's talking about now, and that's what we should have been talking about all along. There was a standard that was set to hire these officers, and they met that standard. And unfortunately, over time, they've done nothing regarding their mental health. I guarantee you that many of those issues that are occurring in law enforcement now, such as the alcoholism, the suicide rate, the divorce rates, the substance abuse rate, all of that stuff would not be nearly as high if officers were just allowed to be human and allowed to get the mental health resources that we all talk about, that everybody should be dealing with, and we should be accepting all people. But we're not allowing officers and firefighters and the rest of EMS and the first responder world to be humans because they're dealing with the worst of the worst every day. I'm so sorry that this introduction was so long. I'm very passionate about it, and I just want our officers, our firefighters, our military veterans, our hospital workers that are working in level 1 traumas, and everybody to get the help they need for dealing with the worst of society. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
He threw some things out of the car right there. He's throwing some things out the passenger side there along the wall, the slow lane wall. 619, he's throwing dope out the window. We got bills of marijuana coming out.
619, I copy bills of marijuana coming out of the window at 2328.
Do you need it up or down?
That's perfect.
Okay.
If that is perfect right there.
I'm usually pretty loud, so.
Okay. That's
good.
Should
be good.
So let's get started, though.
Sure.
If you could, just please give a little introduction to who you are.
Awesome. My name's Danielle, and I'm the wife of a police officer.
Okay.
I'm super excited to be here with you today. Not quite sure what you're going to ask me, but I'm happy to answer anything.
Well, but that's the thing, though, is that I don't do like a tell me about this, tell me about that. But the way I met you, and there will be sensitive stuff that we cannot talk about on this podcast simply for the fact of fear of retribution.
Yeah.
So I think that that's actually the kind of the core and foundation of why we're sitting here.
Absolutely.
I know who your husband is.
So do I.
Right. So I've known him for a long time.
Yeah.
So we can't hide the fact that we used to work on the same department.
Yeah.
We're not here to slam anything or anything like that, but we are here to talk about the realities of what's going on, particularly how law enforcement today is being treated. Now, everything is a case-by-case basis. Every department is a little bit different. But real quick, we ran into each other. I ran into you guys at Black Rifle Coffee about a week and a half ago, and I ran up to him and says, "Hey, what's going on?" And we just started chit-chatting for a few minutes, and then you and I hit it off, and we got onto the mental health topic.
Yep.
And I said, "I want to talk to you."
Yeah.
And that's here we are.
Yeah. And I'm glad you did. I think that there's so many things that like go unspoken about this, like this industry alone. And it's unspoken about what the officers go through. It's unspoken about what the families go through. And like at the end of the day, it needs to be like shouted from a rooftop.
Amen.
And unless we start talking about it and talking about it all the time and in front of everyone and the right people, I don't know that anything's going to change. And I'm a huge advocate for change, and I want it to change for my husband. And that's really it.
Do you want to answer the question, like how long you've been married and family real quick so we can have just kind of a better understanding of your background?
Sure. I've been with him for just about 20 years.
Okay.
And we've been married for 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been a while.
So you have been there through the entire process of prior to law enforcement.
Yes.
And now he has how many years on? We'll just say he's got over a decade.
Yeah.
He's experienced, he's seasoned.
Yeah.
He's a veteran officer. which is just wild to think about because I remember seeing him the first day. Like I legit do. I remember that. And he's, obviously I like the dude because I came up and said, hi, I obviously don't look nearly the same as I used to. I could have been the gray man and just passed by, but no.
In fact, you called yourself that at the coffee shop.
Yeah. It's like, okay, but I wanted to say hi because I was like, all right, I'll say he was a decent kind of a prick, but whatever.
I love it.
Just kidding. But you've been through the evolution of prior to law enforcement.
Yeah.
You've raised a family with him. You have gone through the evolution of starting off as a rookie and the excitement and the joy evolving into going through different units, going through different assignments, supervisory roles and all that type of stuff. So what have you seen has been the biggest change?
I mean, from day one, personally for me, day one, he was super excited. So academy, let's go back to the academy. Yeah. The academy, he was this super young, cool kid, so excited to get through this.
No.
And if we rewind even further, his dad was a director. His brother is in law enforcement. So this runs deeper.
No.
This is a family thing. It's so exciting to see how deep rooted this is for him and how passionate he is about this. And so from day one, super excited. I remember graduation and I remember graduation from advanced. And I think you and I talked about that he graduated from advanced. And when we talk about mental health, they had this conversation with the spouses about these bullshit books that you have to read, right? To get through everything.
Yeah.
And he and I read them. And it was we're going to double down on this and we're going to do this together. And again, super excited. Then we go onto the road and he's out of FTO and he's doing amazing. Then he literally sees this terrible, terrible accident of our neighbor.
Oh.
First fatal.
Ooh. That's terrible.
Terrible.
Yeah.
And, gets through it. Trooper, amazing. Goes into specialty, right? He has been the most amazing person to watch through every transition in this department that he's made. I can't even speak highly enough about the person he is and what I've watched him evolve into. But then there's another part. And the other piece is from a family aspect, it's that we have to watch this evolution of you're never home.
Right.
That the department took precedence, that you are forever changed and you're hardened. Your heart is just different. And there is zero resource provided. And I get a little emotional when I talk about this because I'm the wife that has to sit and be the counselor and be the emotional support, and the department doesn't care. And so that's the change I've seen. And it's been tough for 15 years.
Yeah.
And, it's when year 20 comes, who is going to be there for us? And I can guarantee, I see you shaking your head, no one.
No one. You're on your own.
We're on our own.
There's several things I want to talk about in regards specifically to, let's start at the first couple things you said about his evolution and the specialty units and all that good stuff and time away from family. So I was in two of the same units.
Yeah.
So I completely understand the dynamic. This is a question that you have to have that team dynamic. You have to build rapport and camaraderie and brotherhood with the people you're going to put your lives on the line with. you're going to be stuck in situations where you're with those people for 10, 20, 30, 40-hour long deployments. Days at a time. So how do we balance the camaraderie, the team building, and the friendship with the family life?
Yeah.
How, from your, I have my own thoughts, but how, from your perspective of literally sticking through his side, and this is again for all of the spouses out there.
Yeah.
All first responder spouses. It's essentially the same.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. If we kind of take specialty out of it and we go back to when he was a trooper,
Okay.
when we got married, the guys from the road showed up at our wedding.
Yeah.
Like unannounced. It was the coolest thing. And when I was in a hospital room, as weird as it was, having our first child,
Okay.
they showed up there with food.
Okay.
As weird as it was so like, we're a family.
Yeah.
Now, the guys in the specialty unit, this has been the longest amount of time on the department for us.
Okay.
And
The majority of the time in
yeah.
specialty.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I say family, I mean family.
Okay.
And the wives were a family. And I can say that, like, I can reach out to any one of these guys at any moment.
Edit. Don't worry about it.
If he were unavailable. And they would come.
See, that's why I do a little clappy thing.
And they would come and help me. And it wouldn't even be a question. Like, they would be there for me.
No.
They wouldn't hesitate. And so it's hard for me to ever say, like, stop doing what you're doing. Like,
right.
why would I ever do that? Like, we're all a family. But again, my heart bleeds for them too. No one's there for them when this is over.
Nobody knows what happens behind closed doors.
No.
You can be best friends. You can be lifelong friends with these people, but nobody knows what happens in a family behind closed doors.
Right.
I have to talk about what happened to me, as hard as it is, but that's exactly what part of my issue was.
Yeah.
Was that nobody was going on behind closed doors. And what was going on behind closed doors was I was dealing with trauma. I was dealing with a mental health crisis that I didn't know I was in. And I was also dealing with my back injury when it first happened. And there were signs and symptoms and warnings. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not saying, well, you should have. I'm not sitting here shaming anybody. I should have recognized it myself. But there should have been systems and checks in place in the department, in supervisors, and in peers to empower them to reach out to me without, fucking up somebody's career.
There's a stigma, though.
Right.
And I think in some of these specialty units, you're not strong enough if you can't deal with this, right?
Right.
And I don't know if that's taught to them or if it's like this like macho man persona that you have to be in that unit. I don't know. But at the end of the day, like, I live with one of these men. And I live with the stories I hear as the wife. They affect me just the same. And I know at the end of the day that there is no way that the stories I hear are not affecting the person that they happen to. And that somehow, someone needs to be doing something different. And the department better step in and do something different. And that's like deeply inside me.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like, and I say it all the time, I'm like, God forbid ever anything happened to you.
Yeah.
I would be a raging bitch if something happened to you. Because you were somewhere you shouldn't have been.
Right.
because you were in a situation you shouldn't have been in for the 10th time. God forbid.
No. How do we instill in command staff that it's not about numbers and it's about people? What does it take? Does it take, one thing that I'm convinced of the fact that bad police shootings, some of them, not all, come from a police officer who's drowning in PTSD and mental health issues and bad
100%.
Yeah. And bad interactions with the citizens because they're drowning in PTSD
100%.
and mental health. And again, it's not just PTSD, anxiety, depression, shitty home life.
100%. I'm going to go back to anxiety and depression. If they're battling this all day long, every day, sitting at their desk, and then a call happens and they get in their car and they're just mentally not okay.
Yep.
What do you think they're going to be like behind a fucking gun?
They're going to be all over the place.
I can't even imagine. And then what is their spouse going to be like when they have to live with what happened? Their kids.
No.
Because the department didn't want to do something first. Like these are truly the things that I think of when I look at my husband. Again, like it makes me so emotional because I don't ever want him to deal with that.
No.
Like ever.
But there's a very high probability that he will.
Absolutely.
And I will say this, that 80% of police officers, again, that's just a number that I came up with after having a couple of years on, absolutely have PTSD from pulling dead babies out of cars and the constant trauma and the constant negativity, the constant trauma, and your teammates, you're trauma bonding with your teammates. The dark gallows humor. You know, I'm sure that, you know, when the families get together, it's nothing but cop talk and dark stories.
Yes.
And that's all trauma.
That's how they get through it.
Yes.
Yeah. They make it funny.
And that's not healthy.
No.
It's a coping strategy, but it's not healthy.
Yeah. They say that they, and I know this from my husband, they say that they talk to them, they talk amongst themselves,
right,
which is fine. And I say, I love that you guys have each other to talk to, but talk to someone else too.
You have to talk to a professional.
I agree. Shit, I need to talk to one.
100%. I'm not saying 100% for you. I'm saying
but
we all should.
Yeah, I've shared with him, I need to, because of what you've gone through. Like, I need to, because of the fear instilled in me with what could happen to you, you know?
How many times have you hidden what you're going through because of his job?
I've hidden it from him for a lot of years until recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, like back to the department, I don't think that they're giving enough. I don't think that they share enough resources for anyone. And I always go back to that stupid graduation from Advanced Academy or whatever it was. And I'm like, how stupid that they're like, read this book. And my husband used to get on me when they would bring new people onto the team and, you know, into their squads and all these things. And I was like talking to the wives and I'm like, are you sure you know what you're in for?
Right.
And he was like, don't do that. And I'd be like, but oh my gosh, someone has to.
It needs to be said.
Yeah, someone has to share this. Like, they're so excited that their husband is going to be a police officer. And I'm like, I don't know how cool this is all the time. Like, I pride myself in sticking by you for all these years because it's so hard.
Yeah.
And no one's over here patting me on the back. And no one's patting you on the back either.
They do sure as fuck try to fire you quickly.
Yes. No one is patting you on the back. They're looking for ways to tell you what you do is wrong.
Yep.
They're looking for ways to move you guys around every which way they possibly can and shit on you in every way they possibly can and to not pay you for what you do well.
Yeah.
So I will absolutely share with every wife I can, stick by them and support them and do everything you can to make them well when they come home.
What does that look like as a spouse? What
It's
does
so
that
hard.
mean?
It's so hard.
See, happens every time.
I love it. It's so hard. You work opposite schedules, you have kids.
Right. And you are a professional.
Yeah.
You have your degree, you have a company, so
Yeah.
you have your own
Yeah.
income and all that. So you're trying to manage all that stuff.
Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. An adult kid. Yeah, it's hard.
When I'm having this conversation with you, and I'm not just having it with you, I'm having it with my wife as well. I'm certain that she probably feels the exact same.
Yeah.
About all of the, I'm out there being gung-ho, oorah, Captain America, running around saving the day, and she's at home dealing with kids, dealing with life, dealing with all of the other stuff at home. And I'm sure it's probably a lonely existence as well.
Yeah. It's interesting. I have people that, as a spouse, you meet people and they say, I don't know how you do what you do. And, I'm always like, I'm so proud of him. And you get used to it. It's my go-to. You get used to it. And I say, I always know he's safe. And I know no news is good news.
Right. Right.
And I know if my phone rings and it's someone from the department that's a friend, that's bad news. And I said, you'll get there, that you're not texting and calling them all the time. And, it's interesting. I still always say to him, like, call me when you're done or things like that. And it's been years now. So, it's just a normal thing. But it's hard for me to share that with people because I'm like, I still don't know if I truly believe when I say that. Like,
Right.
You'll get used to it. No, you don't.
You just deal with it.
Absolutely. 100%. 100% you just get numb. And I think it's the same word that he uses is numb.
Which is trauma.
I was just going to say, when I hear the word numb, I think dangerous.
Yep. I agree with that completely.
Absolutely. I think dangerous. I think that you become, like, you're almost like victimized. Like you don't even know anymore when you should be afraid. And yeah, it's a scary word to think that I'm numb to not hearing from him.
Because you can't possibly think, no. All you can do is think of the possibilities, which that's the worst thing on the planet to do is to sit there and spin in your head. The possibilities are good or bad.
Yeah.
And when you're just going around and around in your head, you're just running yourself crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other flip side to that is those that that he's in safe hands and in good hands because he spends so much time with his team and is built and bonded with his team. So it's like you also need that time away. He needs that time to. This is the complex issue.
Yeah.
I think of like a fireman schedule would be like the best sort of style. So you get 4 days at home but the problem is call outs. The problem is the world does not stop.
Yeah.
And I can speak from personal experience on this. You have that sense of duty. If not me, then who? When there's the world going bad and you're in those roles, you want to jump up, kid up, and run out the door and go save the day.
Yes. 100%. That's him.
And I think that's 95% of the officers who choose those roles.
Lives for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which also adds to trauma and
Yeah.
PTSD because now your baseline is not down here. You don't get excited anymore by a scary movie. Now you have to literally be putting your life on the line. You have to literally be in the gunfire to get any kind of rise.
I am literally planning the next 10 years. What am I going to do to keep him busy after retirement?
No.
Yes.
It's
excited.
right.
Yeah.
This is where the law enforcement suicide happens after.
Yes. Afraid would be an understatement for me in keeping the engagement for him.
Is he going to get bored of you? Is he going to get bored of the family? You know, those are all.
He's go, 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 go. His mind is go, go, go. And so making sure that that can stay engaged somehow, I think is a big concern. And again, who do I go to?
The department isn't going to have shit.
No.
Post-retirement. They're not going to have shit regarding, I mean, what are the resources that the department has now? And we're saying the department.
Any
Yes,
department.
Any department. There are departments who are doing good on this and departments that don't give a flying fuck about what's happening.
Yeah.
What are some of the resources that are currently that you're aware of?
I'm not aware of any. And it's frightening for me. I'm not, whole family law enforcement.
Right.
I have a sibling that has a husband that's law enforcement. I've got other brother-in-laws that are law enforcement. What are they all going to do?
That's where they have to find a community outside of law enforcement. The things that I'm aware of now are not department. They're outside nonprofits. It's everything but the department that's trying to help first responders. It's why does the fire department have such a culture of being great physically and mentally for their firefighters, but the police department doesn't? They're both government entities. They're both first responders. Why is there so much focus on firefighters, but not on law enforcement?
We're like the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah. No. I know that there's like Under the Shield, Overwatch Collective, but these are all nonprofits. These are all not department.
Right.
They're not in the department on a daily basis. You have to reach out to them and get those services.
So why? How has this happened? That the family that's devoted 20 plus years, their life, some families, has zero resource until they die.
And then all you get is money. Tell me I'm wrong, but you're not wrong. Completely ass backwards. The department preaches we're family. Your husband has been able to, excuse me, water went down the wrong pipe. Your husband has been able to build that community and that family in his units.
Right.
But that's not the department.
No.
There's no culture. There's no foundational level of talking about mental health, talking about at the academy level. There's the big thing going on right now, like cops should know what they're getting into. They should understand the stresses of the job.
How? Who's teaching that class?
Right. I don't think there's a human being on the planet that knows how they're going to react when they're holding a dead baby.
No.
You know, one that died from trauma or a car accident or whatever.
Or I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, I could be completely ignorant here. I'm pretty sure that in the academy and throughout training, they teach you how to shoot the gun.
Yes.
But they don't actually teach you how you're going to react when you kill the person. Am I wrong?
You're 100% correct.
Okay. So, like, they can debrief you all they want when you kill the human, but they need to actually counsel you.
Yes. Agreed.
So until they start looking at that shit the right way, we're letting go of all of these people in these departments that have actually shot people for the right reasons. And I love the military, don't get me wrong, but we have all of these like VAs, which is still a fucking crock of shit because people can't get into them. But we have all of these facilities for the military, but then we let police officers retire and have no benefit for anything. And we're like, here, fools, go out into the street.
Right.
And be mentally unstable with your home and with your kids and with your wife and with everyone else because we don't care anymore. It's not okay.
It's not.
And I'm like hell bent to see change. Like, it is not okay. I know too many of them going through stuff right now, and it is not okay.
What are things that the department can do throughout someone's career to help with this? I think you said something really, really good. And that was, again, and one of the roles that I had was to interview officers who were involved in post shootings. Between the time I interviewed them and the shooting, there was zero mental health.
None.
And there is not one interview that I went on where the officer did not cry. There was one person who didn't cry, and that dude's a stone cold killer. But all of those officers were absolutely emotionally impacted by them having taken a life. Justified. Zero mental health counseling.
And we had a really good friend, went through the academy with my husband, and he was just simply involved in a shooting not long after graduation.
Okay.
And it affected him.
Yeah.
And I don't recall, this was years ago, I don't recall the situation 100% now, but ended up leaving the department, moved, and wanted to go back into law enforcement in a different state,
Okay.
which surprised me. But
Right.
what he went through here was zero resource. What I'm going to call like the resource officer that was assigned to like make sure that everything was okay after the shooting. I'm going to call it like house protection.
Okay.
Right? I don't even know what they call it. Was a crock of shit. The families do more, I think, for these officers when things like this happen. The wives do more for these officers when things happen.
Yeah.
But the department here was such bullshit when he simply just reached back out to like get everything squared away to move to a different department. I mean, there's zero resources is the bottom line for anything.
The way that it used to go, and I'm not sure if it is like this, but get involved in a shooting on a Friday. You have your 3 days administrative leave.
Right.
Then you go and talk to the detectives back in SIU. Sometimes it might take a day or two longer, or if the officer wanted to talk. So you get about 3 days leave. You talk to the officer. You have the interview. If there's nothing overtly criminal and it's going to be a justified shooting, then that officer goes and requalifies on their weapon.
Right.
And then they're back on the road.
Right.
There might be, I'm not sure. I don't recall if you're required to go talk to a psychologist. I don't recall specifically if you are. So I think you do have to go talk to the psychologist though. So
yeah, I don't know.
But I don't, that process, like I never had to deal with after the psychologist. So
is the psychologist perhaps like a on the road trooper that just has some sort of psychology degree?
No,
because I don't know, I feel like that would be the way that like departments work.
No, I do know for a fact that there was not a department psychologist, but there was a psychologist that the department contracted out to that have to go to. I had to take the MMPI the psychological at
like
one of the
evaluation.
offices. Yeah, twice. So I guess I just was unstable or something. But so I did have to go to a psychologist office and talk to them there.
Yeah.
But they said it's not specifically assigned, or I'm sorry, not specifically working for the department. It's just a psychologist who is contracted out to the department.
Okay.
To go and talk to them. So, but I can tell you exactly how that interview goes. How are you? Good.
Do you feel good?
Yeah. Are you sleeping? Yes. Okay. Do you think you need any help? No. Okay. Have a nice day. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong.
I'm going to tell you that's a bad choice
to
put you back on the road right away.
I did speak with an officer who was involved with the shooting, and I told them point blank, I have no doubt that you need to go and get some mental help with this. and they immediately laughed, that nervous chuckle laughed, and then they immediately began talking about something completely different.
Yeah.
And that's the mentality, because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the trauma. They don't want to deal with your feelings.
Or that should have been my shot.
That's a strange mentality that we don't know that I don't personally understand.
Tell me I understand it.
Right.
I'm like, that what?
Right.
What? Who says that? Don't be weird.
I can say that I have had the feelings of, I wish it would have rather have been me
Than you.
So
Sure.
that you don't have to deal with the bullshit.
Sure.
So I understand that aspect of it. I'm tough enough to handle what's going to be thrown at me.
I can understand that, but I still don't think anyone is tough enough to deal with the prolonged trauma
Right.
of what that all means with everything that has already happened to them.
I've said it before, it's not post-traumatic stress, because that would infer the fact that the trauma is over. Now you're living your life. Police officers do this
Continuously.
every day,
Yes.
4 or 5 days a week for 20, 25 plus years,
Yeah.
and go deal with car accidents, the worst child neglect and child abuse and everything else. And SWAT deals with shootings all the freaking time and all kinds of terrible shit. And detectives are picking up dead bodies all the time. And it's just trauma after trauma after trauma.
Yeah. I don't know that it's ever going to end. And I think there's just this stigma of like you said, you knew what you were getting into.
How?
You didn't.
Right. How does anybody know?
I'm pretty sure there's no class in the academy.
They teach you the basics. They never, ever teach to you the emotion. They never explain you're going to walk into a house and you're going to be scared. You're going to come up to a scene and you're not going to know what's going on. And you're not going to understand. You know what I'm saying? They train you how to work through the jitters and the anxiety of how to get your gun out and get on target and pop off the proper shots and get your gun back in and make the world a safe place.
Yeah.
But not the realities of dealing with the ridiculous amounts of adrenaline that just went through your body, how to deal with that adrenaline after it went through your body, the cortisol and the stress chemicals and the neural pathways and all that stuff, and how to actually talk.
Imagine a world like, you said stone cold killer.
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine a world where we put every cop on the road that was a stone cold killer that had zero emotion.
Yeah.
And so we totally went the other way to what politics has told us this past 2 years, where they were putting these, like, I don't even know what I want to call them, the negotiators out at doors of fucking murderers.
Right. Right.
And they were like, put your gun down. But instead we put stone cold killers as cops.
It's going to be black and white.
Everyone's going to die.
You're going to have stacking bodies.
It wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work.
That's the world where we say you should have known what you were getting into.
Yeah. Agreed.
That we have actual humans. You're a human behind the uniform. My husband is a human behind the uniform. He has emotions. He's amazing.
Absolutely.
He does not want to pull the trigger.
They don't.
He does not want to pull the trigger. He does not want that to live inside him. He did not want to pull the dead baby out of the car, our neighbor. He does not want to live with that. What he wants is to deal with it.
No.
He wants to know how to deal with it. He wants help. I'll tell you right now, he's not getting it. I can't give it to him.
You can't make him either.
No. Because he thinks he's tough. The department has bred him to think he's okay.
No.
And he's not. And I'm pissed off about that. They have built him to think everything he's gone through is normal.
No.
They've normalized this job. It is not normal.
It's not.
No.
It is not normal.
Nothing about it is normal.
The humor is not normal.
No.
The work schedule is not normal. I do believe that law enforcement has the most the most important job in the country,
Yes.
and that is you have the ability to strip somebody's rights away from them. The response, and I will 100% say again that the training for law enforcement doesn't need to be 6 months long. It needs to be 2 years long. There needs to be stress inoculation. There needs to be psychology classes, and for God's sakes, English classes so we can all write better. But sorry, that was a side dig. But they need the exposure in how to deal with the stress and how to deal with the trauma. They need to be taught proper physical fitness and why it's important. I think that's one of the biggest missing pieces. If you tell someone to do it, they're not going to do it. If you explain to them why, they have a better shot of understanding that this will help them in the long run.
You mean we shouldn't just put up billboards that say, this could be you for $30,000 a year?
No.
Okay, well, I don't know.
Right.
We're getting everyone at that point.
That's part of the problem, too. The quality of officers coming in
Yeah.
is down here.
Because anyone can do it,
Yeah.
according to the billboard. Yeah, anyone's qualified.
And no training anymore, apparently. They just throw you a badge and a gun.
Yeah, it's not okay.
It's not. It's going to create worse and worse outcomes.
These kids are not qualified to go through what they're going through.
They're not. They're not qualified mentally. They're not qualified physically. And then that's when that's a cop who is out of shape mentally and physically is more dangerous than not having an officer there.
Yes.
Because they're going to make the wrong decisions.
Yeah. Like I said, I know too many of them right now going through things that I wish I could change.
No.
And it's hard to see it. And there is no one to help them.
What can we do? This is always the question like that. I always want to know what can be done. What can we do?
I would do anything. I would move mountains to see change for my friends and family.
And for all good officers.
For anyone in law enforcement. Anyone. And if I had the right, I would march into the director's offices and sit face to face with them like I am right now with you and say, what can you do differently? Because something's got to give. These men and women are unhealthy. Mm-hmm. And you don't see it. And you're the guy or gal that has to see this.
Yeah. I think that a lot of police brass and administrators are still just so out of touch with their people on the ground. That was no different than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Right.
And if the top brass doesn't know what's going on, if they think they're the greatest leaders on the planet, but their people under them don't respect them and know that they don't have their backs,
then we have an ownership problem.
Nope. They don't take any agency in what they're doing.
No. So then then it becomes an issue of like, who do you talk to at every department in every state that then talks to the next person that talks to the next person, that finally you get some traction and there starts to become change.
What can agencies do regarding the wives? I shouldn't say wives, but the spouses.
Honestly,
yeah,
I feel like in graduations, they need to have this really cool panel of wives come and speak from experience, where we just get to answer questions to the wives that have questions about what it's like and what our experiences have been and how cool it is. And it can be positive.
Absolutely.
I think that building these wives up to be strong for their husbands is what matters most. And to teach them to be there to support them through everything, because I will tell you, this is the hardest job to have, is to be the wife of these officers. because we do not know if it's going to be a hard day.
Right.
And we do not know if we're going to get that terrible phone call one day. But I would support him through everything and anything. So I think having a panel of us to sit there and answer questions, to be a support of good, and to be there for them in the future, if they had a question, would be so amazing. I mean, if I had that in the beginning, not some, again, resource officer, I don't even know what that person was, telling me to read a book.
Right.
Like, who do I go to after that? A Facebook page?
Pretty much.
I know. That was it.
I remember at my graduation, post AOT and all that stuff, that it was some crusty dude, some crusty old lieutenant or captain or whoever he was.
Basically.
Yeah, that was talking to us, and my spouse couldn't be there. It was my ex now. But after that, there was zero reaching out.
Yeah.
There was no, let's get the new troopers' families together. You know, back in the military, they could do what's called mandatory fun days. So yo ass had better be here with your family with smiles on your faces. It was a good and a bad thing. You know, it brought everybody together, but at the same time it was a pain in the ass. But there's no reaching out in law enforcement.
Yeah.
So there's no, the spouses that live behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And deal with all the trauma.
Yeah. There's no resource.
One of the biggest reasons for the stigma, and correct me if I'm wrong, is if your officer goes and says, I'm having a really hard time right now, the fear is that he's going to be taken off of his position. The fear is that he's going to be removed from his job. And I think it's important to point out the fact that when a police officer becomes a police officer or a firefighter becomes a firefighter, that becomes ingrained in who they are on a daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, the fear on the department and the likability, I think, run hand in hand. It's not even about, do they do their job well?
No.
It's, do they like you?
Yep.
This is a game of politics. This isn't a game of, are you good at your job? It's sickening. And that, to me, being in a world of corporate America, not necessarily, I used to be, but I own a business now. So to me, when I see the inner workings of what happens in law enforcement and on the fire side, I think to myself, like, they're such a cool person. What has gone wrong?
Yeah.
Or when I see the wrong leadership, I'm like, what in the world did they do that they're in that role?
Yeah.
And then when I hear, well, you know, they're talking to these people, it's like a game of awful girls gossip. But it is not who does their job well.
Right.
It's a game of likability and politics. And it's sickening. That's all this is in law enforcement. And it's a terrible, terrible thing.
You're going to get leaders in there that play favorites.
Yes.
You're going to get leaders in there that handpick and hand select people. This guy's a prick, but is really, really good at his job. This guy I really, really like, but sucks at his job. So the guy that I really, really like is going to get to go do the specialty assignments and get the new car and get the new get all the new training and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of just looking at qualifications.
Don't let them hear you talk shit about this person, or don't let them hear you talk shit about the department, because we will move you in a snap.
Yep.
How dare you?
Or they'll just get rid of you.
Yeah, how dare you cross us?
Yeah, there's no accountability.
None.
Especially when you get up in the upper echelons.
Yeah.
The fact that, I mean, back in my time, you had a sergeant who had a DUI, and as opposed to an officer who had a DUI who got terminated, the sergeant had a DUI, it just got demoted and put into a really cool specialty position.
Sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
How about this? Do the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, let's just do the right thing and be a standout department.
No.
Every department, like, this goes on everywhere.
Oh, 100%.
Everywhere.
The right thing in that situation to me would be, why don't we try to help this officer?
Yeah.
We've devoted and invested time and money and years into this officer. Okay, they got a DUI. Are they an alcoholic? Do they need help? Are they an alcoholic because they have post-traumatic stress because of the job?
Thank you. I share with my kids all the time that, and my husband knows this too, that I want to always leave my mark for doing the right thing and for standing out for like everything I believe in. And I never want to be the person that said, I wish I would have done X. I want to do it. And if I do it and I fail, I want to stand up and I want to do it again. And what I feel like these departments do is they just keep plugging along, failing. Instead of standing up and trying to change and maybe making some mistakes along the way, trying to be perfect, they just keep fucking up and not making the right changes and standing up for what's right. Like, do the right thing. Be the bigger person. Like, be remembered for being great. That's what they're not doing. I want to be remembered for being great.
Yeah, I don't give a shit
Even if I failed while I was doing it, I want to be remembered for being great. I don't know why they don't want the same thing.
Because they get paid the same either way.
It
fail
blows
up.
my mind. It blows my mind.
They fail up.
But they're not. I mean, I don't have one great thing to say about when retirement happens.
Yeah.
It's going to be rejoice.
The number one thing, my saving grace, I believe, was I was friends with more civilians outside of work than I was cops. And it's that saving grace on the outside of having friends and family and camaraderie on the outside of law enforcement.
Yep.
Who don't want to sit there and talk about the cop stories all the time. And it's good to have those, everybody, coworkers always get together and talk about whatever their work is. But again, when it's death, destruction, it's not good on the mental status.
Yeah. I'm grateful for the education that it's given to my husband. And I'm grateful for everything that he can leave with what he's built himself to be.
Yeah. He's taken advantage of
Absolutely.
He's taken advantage of the opportunities that were in front of him
100%.
and made himself a better person.
Yeah. So I know that he can walk away and do amazing things.
Yeah.
I'm going to rejoice when he walks away. Like, it's going to be probably one of the better days for us.
But there's going to be a hole in his heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we're going to have to cross that path.
Yeah. Like,
I know we're going to have to deal with that. And, maybe we're going to have to build him a shooting range or something really cool. I know we're going to have to cross that path to keep him busy.
Well, middle-aged dudes, who lose their purpose, we start podcasts.
There's a lot of things. If you were to ask him, he's like, my wife has an idea for new things every 7 seconds. So I'm sure I can keep him busy with something. But yeah, it weighs on me because I know I'm going to have to keep him occupied.
The care and the love and the compassion that you have, it drips out of you. And for your love for your husband and your love for law enforcement. But we got to get him to the 20. Mm-hmm. So how do you get these guys with the repeated trauma and the department just bashing down on them? Because I know funding and money and budgets and all that stuff is shit right now. And, departments don't want to talk about that. And, they don't have the funding for any of that stuff. So how do we get these guys to the 20 to be able to enjoy the rest of their life? And it's just a start. Life after law enforcement it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It's awesome. There are aspects that I miss, but it's awesome outside.
Oh, I bet.
How do we get them to cross that finish line though? Mentally safe or mentally healthy.
Yeah. I mean, you ask me, call me crazy. And again, I may be super ignorant, but I dream big and I feel like it's like you have to knock on the door of the right person and it may be 100 doors you have to knock on.
No.
And it's going to be the one person that agrees to the sit down and the talk to say, I hear you. You're right. We need to make a change. But I truly feel like you can talk and talk and talk all you want about it, but it's that you have to get in front of the right person to finally make a difference.
Agreed.
And it won't change until someone that's important enough and high enough hears the annoying voice of the same person over and over and over again to say, change it because I'm worried for my husband, or change it because I'm worried for the law enforcement community.
Do you think inside of the law enforcement community, the actual officers are afraid to speak up?
Yes. I don't think, I know.
Okay. I know that too.
They're afraid of backlash. They're afraid to go to their like FOPs and their
unions.
Yeah.
Unions.
Yeah. Because the people that sit in those unions are still officers within, like, who knows who they're connected to. They're afraid of getting in trouble for speaking out. So when I retire, I'm going to say something to them. I'll show them. No, show them now.
I had a conversation recently again.
I will show them now.
Yeah.
That's like, these are conversations that I have with my husband. No, I will show them now because I have to deal with you. Yeah. But that's a real thing.
It is. No, it really, really is. Again, yeah. The home life is the most important thing. Because at the end of the day, no matter what happens, whether there's, an officer retires or whatever, that position will be filled faster than, before the body's even cold, so to speak. Yeah. Where you still have to, and I know it's a terrible, terrible term in this world, but you still have to go home and deal with your family. Yeah. Yeah. This will get sent directly to the director.
Do it.
But it's a tragedy what we're doing to law enforcement as a whole. I want really smart, highly educated, well-trained, mentally prepared people, guys, girls, whatever, when I pick up the phone to dial 911, because I'm not able to do what I used to do anymore. Mm-hmm. I want some badasses to come through that fence or that door or whatever to come and rescue and help my family or whatever the case is.
Right.
I want mentally stable people.
I mean, good luck.
Right. It seems as though there's such a huge focus now on officers getting this type of stuff outside of the department.
Well, it's not necessarily outside of the department. It's like, well, it is outside of the department, but it's like, hey, we work with, military vets, and we work with, okay, good, great.
Right.
But is that just what you do? Or do you work directly with the department because that's something I'm given because I'm dealing with this because of you idiots? Right? Yeah. Like, let's be real.
They need tangible, actionable items to help them.
And it needs to not be bullshit. Like,
right.
If you are actually going through something that is directly related to the department and you're suffering, and you need to step away from the department, why is it so goddamn hard to get your benefits?
Yeah.
Why is it so hard to be like, why is it so hard to step away from the department after what you've given to law enforcement and be able to survive outside of that environment?
They act as though it's their pocket that the money's coming out of.
Oh, please.
It's right. Instead of the big pool of money that's there to be used and to be spent and to help them.
Yeah, no.
They do act as though it's like their own, like, why would we pay this out? Like, this is not department related.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought process, but those are the things that I'm like, I just can't process that.
Right.
I cannot process the difficulty behind, like, and then I hear it from my own husband. I've only got, this amount of years left.
That's a very dangerous mindset.
I'm like, do it now. What do you owe them?
That's a very dangerous mindset. And part of that is finishing what you started. And for some reason, the 20 years is the finishing what you started.
Yeah. And I admire that 100%.
I get it.
Because I wake up and I'm like, oh, I could be done today. No, I admire everything that he does. But I also know that he is just mentally, it is not where he was at 21.
Right.
He is not excited. He is not sharp the way he was at 20. Don't get me wrong. He is like one of the best, I'm sure, at what he does. But he's also going through stuff.
Has he ever been involved in a shooting?
Yes.
Okay. I was unaware of that one.
Yeah.
How long ago was it?
When I say involved, I don't think pulled the trigger.
Okay.
Yeah. But involved
Okay.
in many.
Yeah.
So many times, I don't know.
No.
But the stories are just horrific, like just not mentally, just not the same.
No.
Yeah. The heart is just not the same.
When all you see is the worst in people, all you're going to see is the worst in people.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And he tells me that. Yeah. But then when all I hear is like, oh, I've got, X amount of years left. I'm like, oh, good.
It's hard on you.
One more day left.
Right.
All right. Awesome. One day down. Yeah. It's tough.
Because you're dealing with your set of emotions.
Yeah.
And dealing with his set of emotions as well.
Yeah. He's a trooper.
But it's right.
Here, don't say that.
Yeah, right. But it's the sort of thing though where it's like you get stuck in a mindset. I was going to leave DPS and I was going to go over to Mesa PD.
Okay.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have. But the reason why I didn't is because I had that mentality of I needed to finish what I started. I need to. And then also switching police departments is very difficult. You lose all of your seniority. You got to learn all new processes. You got to learn all new beats. You got to learn the way. It's just like changing jobs. You always have to adapt to that new job.
Yeah.
But the styles are completely different.
Yeah.
So it's maybe there is a better fit. Maybe there is a better department. Maybe there is somewhere that supports their people. But do you want to take 12, 13, 14, 15 years of time in at this department and then transfer it over to this department? That officer doesn't want to. They might want to. They may think they want to, but then it's like, oh my God. Like, I don't want to be treated as the rookie again. I've been doing this for 10 plus years. But you get stuck in that mentality of I have to finish what I started. And suffer.
Yeah, but see, sometimes I feel like it's not the rookie again or the changing of the departments. Okay. Sometimes I feel like it's the job. It's the actual action behind where and what, right? Yeah, I don't know that it's, because we all know that sometimes pay changes and things like that. Or years ago, I think it would have been that case. I don't know if it's the same now.
Yes.
But often I think that would be the motivation, is staying right now because of the group of people and the brotherhood of people.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to leave those people.
Yeah. I think that means more than changing to be like happy.
Peer pressure.
Maybe. Yeah. Family.
Yeah.
We've been a family for a long time.
But the mentality should be do what's best for the person. And it's like, the family dynamic of it is great, but maybe they'd be happier somewhere else.
Maybe. Yeah. I think they lose sight of that.
Oh, 100%, because it's the job.
Yeah.
It's the only job where you get to do really, really cool shit and put people in jail for doing the thing that you would have gotten put in jail for doing the same thing.
Yeah.
We're allowed to blow shit up. You're not allowed to blow shit up.
Yeah.
But It's the peer pressure. It's the family dynamic of it and that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Part of it.
I would change a lot for them if I could.
Obviously.
Yeah.
We just need to get that in front of the right people.
Yes.
And show them that, like, it's how the fuck do you prove to somebody that these guys are suffering in silence if they're being silent? You do it through the spouses. Mm-hmm. You get the spouses together and say, look, they don't want to talk about this because they're in fear of retribution. They're in fear of losing their job. They're in fear of losing the position. You know, they don't want to be emasculated.
Right.
They don't want to be shamed.
I always go back to, though, I mean, this may mean nothing, but these things always stand out to me. And again, I love military. This has nothing to do with the military people, but we go places and they're like, "Are you a veteran?"
Right. I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, no, but he's an active police officer. And they're like, "Oh, well, we give discounts for veterans."
Yeah.
And he never wants a discount actually for anything. And he's been like that always.
Yeah.
And I've always admired him for that. And I'm always like, take the discount.
Take the discount.
But it's always been the funniest thing to me. And I look at that and then I kind of look back at like the VA.
Yeah.
And I think, gosh, veterans get everything.
Yeah.
Because they were active 30 years ago. And then they have these beautiful, usually facilities and I know it's very hard to get in. So I know it's difficult, that process. But they have these beautiful facilities for healthcare, mental health care, usually everything. And these men and women who are active police officers, or our daughter, an EMT who sees the same stuff.
100%.
Or firefighters, the same things, have nowhere to go. I think firefighters get some discounts.
they get some discounts. Well, you know they're a firefighter because they drive a big ass lifted jacked up truck with the AIFF sticker on the back. That lets everybody know they're a firefighter.
I'm sorry, everyone. I just had to throw that in there. But then they like nothing.
This is something that
it just weirds me out. I'm like, and then I think, you know, you see the t-shirts like, be kind to everyone because they could be suffering in silence.
Right.
I believe in that so wholeheartedly. I suffer from anxiety like no one's business. And I think, be kind to everyone. And then I'm looking at my husband and I'm thinking, lady, you don't know what he is going through. Give him the damn discount. You know? And I'm my heart hurts when I see those things. I don't need the discount. I don't need 25 cents off, but I want recognition and I want it everywhere for them. I want them to be recognized for everything they go through every single day.
And they don't want it.
Well, but I want them to get the help they need. I want them to get, like, you don't know that he didn't just pull a trigger yesterday. Like,
why does and this is again not shitting on anybody. I was military. I was never combat. Right. I never went overseas. Right. I never did any of that. But I hear you. Why do these combat vets who did that, you know, who got into firefights and all that good stuff, why is law enforcement who does the same thing? Okay, here's the problem is that we don't want to see our police officers as troops. We don't want to see them as soldiers. We want to see them as members of the community. But what members of the community don't understand, especially those who are not pro law enforcement, do not understand is that there are bad people doing bad things and police goes to war with those people.
Yeah.
So they are involved in a war. Now, unfortunately, do a lot of citizens get caught up in that? Unfortunately, yes. But why does the combat veteran get all the services and recognition and understanding that they're going through something?
Yes.
If a veteran says they have PTSD, it is automatically assumed that they fought for their country, they pulled the trigger, and were in firefights. That's a big, broad generalization. But if a law enforcement officer says that, it's not, they're not recognized at all.
I know one very specific person that has PTSD from the military.
Okay.
And I look at my husband, who could be suffering in silence.
Is.
Right. And I know needs the resources and can't get them.
Because there's nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go.
Private insurance, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's the national hotline and private insurance, and how long does it take to get in to go see somebody?
Good luck.
All right. You're 6, 8, 10 weeks out.
And you get a whole, 6 visits?
Right, through the EAP
Something like
programs
that.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Then you're paying out of pocket.
Yeah.
And again, this all comes down to funding.
Yeah.
Who in the hell wants to fund a psych hotline for law enforcement? Because those guys should have known what they were getting involved in.
But
We shouldn't have to do that.
That's the issue, though, that I have is maybe it becomes like a state program for law enforcement in each individual state, or multiple facilities for law enforcement in a
Yes.
state, or each department comes together. Like we have, I don't know. I don't know what has to happen, but something has to happen where the right people have to start talking about the right things to get something going.
I do know that Arizona has the Tiger Act.
Right.
So, but there's still a stigma attached to it. Mm-hmm. This is the problem. The guys suffer in silence because of the stigma. They don't want to speak up. They don't want to be stigmatized. It needs to just be ingrained in the culture.
Yeah.
And the more awareness and the more talking about it and the more spouses that come together and say, hey, these guys need to stop suffering in silence. That was one of the entire goals of me starting this podcast, was I dealt with all of that stuff. I suffered in silence. I was drinking too much because I was dealing with my PTSD and trauma, and I suffered in silence, which led to a really shitty relationship with my wife. We're still married. It's not shitty. Neglecting the family and all that good stuff because I suffered in silence, and she didn't know what to do.
Yeah. I can see it as a path for a lot of people.
For years.
Yeah.
It's been the same revolving door over and over and over. How many cop divorces are? I think it's 80% now.
That is insane.
Yeah, 80% of the law enforcement population gets divorced because they're just not dealing with trauma.
Yeah, we made it a point, I would say about 3 years ago, when things got pretty, I wouldn't say pretty weird, but it got tough between us with work.
Okay.
And full transparency, there was a lot of times where we would talk and he would say, you hate my job. I'd say, I don't hate your job. I love what you do. I hate that you love your job more than us. And I always pointed out this, and he would probably laugh, the special ringtone on the phone. And we would drop everything when it would go off. The kids knew it, I knew it, and it was a punch in the gut when I would hear this. And so this was a few years back, and we decided that there were a lot of talks about this. I had a really tough job. We owned businesses, and we both just had a lot going on. I mean, it was tough on family life. And so we started dating again, each other. And we go out on dates every few nights. We go on vacations together again, and it has been a game changer. And it's been a game changer because the department sort of had to take a back seat.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's been life-changing, I think, for us and for him to really recognize that I love the job, but I love my family. And so I know he's going to be okay coming out of things, but
he has someone that's guiding him.
yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
He has someone that's guiding him. I can tell you that when I was no longer in law enforcement, my kids were very small. My kids know the whole truth about what happened now. I've never shied away from it. But when my kids were very small and couldn't really explain to them, Daddy was a fuck up. That's the truth. My son said to me, "That's awesome, Dad." When I just told him Daddy's no longer going to be in law enforcement, he's going to go back to school. My son said, "That's awesome, Dad." And I said, because this was my son,
again.
right? This is my son who loved the cop stories and loved the patrol car and loved all the cool cop stuff.
Yeah.
I said, "What?" He goes, "Well, then you'll get to spend more time with us on the weekends."
Yeah.
My heart stopped because I was in a role that got called out all the time. My heart absolutely stopped. And I was like, oh. And that's where it's like, now that I look back, it was absolutely a blessing.
Yeah.
It was absolutely a blessing because I was headed down the wrong path and my wife didn't know what to do. I'm not faulting her in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to say that she was not as good of a guide as you, but she just didn't know what to do. And we have a special needs son, so there's lots of overwhelming things. So he has a guide that's trying to bring him back. And that for some reason you love him.
I am no angel. I work a lot myself.
Right.
I travel for work. And he was so cool and supportive when I started a business when I was 28 or 29 years old. He helped fund this whole thing and saw out this crazy dream of mine for 10 years. And so I wouldn't do anything different, right? But yeah, the job itself has been like an evolution of things, and I think my jobs have always been a little bit more like, he's just so used to me. I am an evolution of things. Like, I am just kind of a hippie.
We're supposed to grow though.
Yeah. He's just used to me. Like, I'm just a hippie of things and I change my direction all the time and he's used to that.
Oh, you have ADHD.
Absolutely.
Oh, gotcha.
100%.
Same here.
And his thing has evolved, but it was always so constant of like the phone and I'm going and the phone and I'm going. And it was like, wait, but we were just on our way to dinner. What do you mean you're taking me home? What? Right. So yeah, that part got to be like, oh my gosh, this is just fine. Go.
Which creates resentment.
A little bit. Yeah.
Not for him, but for the job.
Yeah.
Which creates bitterness between you two and lack of communication and all that stuff. All the stuff that I've gone through a million times.
Yeah. And all of us, when I say us, I mean the wives, we're the same.
I agree.
Yeah.
You're all dealing with the exact same things.
Yeah.
The type of person that goes into these specialty units is the same type of person.
Yeah.
It's the same mentality. It's the same type of person. It's the same type A gung-ho, oorah. I get it. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's the same. You're all dealing with the exact same things.
Yeah. And there's multiples of us that would advocate for the same thing.
Let's get them on.
Yeah.
Let's sit and talk with all of them. And that was my thing, like I said, with starting this, was to get to help law enforcement with, you guys are suffering. You guys are suffering in silence. You're scared. You're scared of losing your position, losing your money, losing your job. That's the entire point of what I'm trying to do, is to get those messages out.
We're scared of losing them.
Yeah. I never really understood that aspect of it until I was out of law enforcement and something happened. And my brother's still with DPS. And I saw him, I was like, oh shit. Like, something happened. And then I was like, then I had to send him a text message and be like, okay, but I finally understood kind of a little bit of that fear that my wife had every single time I walked out that door. I was king of the world.
Yeah.
I was having a good time. I was chasing bad guys. I was doing all that fun stuff. I wasn't realizing what was happening back at home.
Yeah.
Because she was a fantastic wife who supported me 100%, just went along with all of my wild, crazy ass ideas.
Yep.
Sound familiar?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, 100%. That's what you guys do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a good, and I don't want to say and a good spouse, but, a good relationship, that's what you do, is you support each other.
Yeah. But
now you've got to support them out of the darkness and into the light. Be like, okay, the hard part is for the officer to recognize the fact that it's okay to be done, and it's okay to move on, and it's okay to now live your life.
Yeah.
You can put it down. You did your job, and now it's okay to be a Walmart greeter, come over to my house and have a joint, smoke a joint with me.
You just bring up a good point.
Weed is always a good point.
Well, it really is. I just mentioned a few minutes ago, I suffer from anxiety like no one's business.
Okay.
And for a long time, I'm going to get real personal here. For a long time, I don't fly well, but I fly a lot for work. And I have to take like Xanax to get on an airplane. And to do a lot of things. I speak publicly and I use Xanax before I get up in front of a huge crowd of people to speak. And it's the weirdest thing because I'm really good at it and it's topics I know. And so my husband was like, try gummies.
Okay.
Another one of the wives that I actually do a podcast with, it's my best friend. And she is like this huge advocate for gummies. And she was like, Dee, you need to try it.
Nice.
And so I was like, okay. Never done drugs in my life. So I was like, I'm down for this. Well, what I recognized really fast was like, I could take Xanax like candy and it wasn't doing anything. And I was like, something's got to give. And so I tried it. And I haven't gone completely like deep into this.
Gotcha.
I'm willing to because I know that I have to do something.
Yeah.
Right? Like I suffer in silence a lot. I wake up in the middle of the night, sheer panic attacks. I don't want to wake him up because he's sleeping and I don't want to freak him out. Yeah. Like, it's anyone that doesn't go through this or suffer from this wouldn't understand. Like I feel like anxiety is something that if you don't have it, you don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And for these officers that are going through something, depression, anxiety, PTSD, if we could have microdosing allowed for them, if I can take Xanax and drive, why can microdosing not be allowed as a medication?
Are you talking THC or are you talking shrooms?
I don't know enough about it to know.
Fair enough.
But I have researched some. I am a chemical dependency counselor, so I feel like I know enough about it to know that microdosing would be like life changing. And it would be less than like if you can take Xanax and still drive, what's the difference in a 5 milligram gummy and driving? Like, I just don't think it would. I don't know. Don't arrest me here, cops, but I'm just saying, like, I just don't understand what's the difference. Like, a medication is a medication, and yes. I do take plenty of them for other reasons that say don't operate heavy machinery, but I have to take them to live. Right. So I hear me out here. I don't know.
This is where I get on my weed soapbox.
Go ahead.
I used a little bit when I was a teenager, didn't through high school.
I think you and everyone else.
Right. But I mean, like, I wasn't like a heavy ass stone or anything like that. I just did a little bit. Didn't touch it in high school though, one time. And then it wasn't until I had my back injury. It was 30.
Well, we all know you wouldn't have passed the test to be a police officer if,
yes, back in the day, weed.
Yes.
So the thing that I didn't use till I was 35 in my back injury and all that good stuff. And one of the things that affected me the most was on the PTSD front was I was not involved with, but I investigated an officer-involved shooting. I was the last person with his body. I literally draped the American flag over him. This was Officer Darren Reed up in Sholo. Mm-hmm. And when I had my interview for that position, the captain said, "You'll never know how you react to seeing a brother in that uniform on the table."
Yeah.
I remember him saying that. Best freaking person ever. And he's no longer there. He moved on, but was an amazing person. And I remember that. And then when I started dealing with my trauma, not knowing that I was dealing with my trauma, that was kind of the catalyst. Why it was the catalyst, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Why that incident bothered me, I don't know. The whole day was very traumatic. But start using weed for my back pain, have my back surgery, blah, blah, blah. Still using it to deal with the day-to-day aches and pains and all that good stuff. This is my surgery years ago, not my fusion I just had a few weeks ago. It's 1:30 in the morning. I've told this story before. It's 1:30 in the morning. I've just like smoked half a joint or whatever. And all of a sudden, I am standing in my kitchen, and this flood and wave of emotions is running over me. And I don't know what's going on. And I'm crying, and I'm like reliving the day and reliving the trauma and feeling all of the feelings and feelings all of the emotions. And I was fighting it. And then after a little bit, my body was just like, sit down and shut up and deal with this. And I did. And it was just from cannabis. And it literally disassociated me from the incident and allowed me to walk through it and process it and deal with my emotions, which is why I can sit here now and talk about it.
Right.
And without not talking about it and avoiding it and moving on. And I did not understand and realize the mental health benefits, when used responsibly,
Yes.
of cannabis.
Right.
And how I was processing emotions, and it actually connects me to my emotions.
Right.
And it actually allows me to feel things and to be more in touch with my lovey-dovey side, and to just be a human.
Right.
And have emotions and have feelings and have all that stuff. And I didn't realize that. And then that's when I started diving into it and understanding the mental health aspects of it.
Yeah.
And I have, I'm a board member of Arizona NORML, and I've been in contact with police officers in another state who are now using gummies. Their state is not testing police officers for THC, and now they are using gummies. And I have the emails
Yep.
where they've said that their drinking has gone down, their sleep has improved, their relationships have improved.
Yep.
Like, I have this information, yet here we are.
Yeah. I mean, the drinking, let's like dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that's a go-to.
That's ingrained by culture. That's just what, okay, full disclosure. I was on SWAT, and I was a negotiator with SWAT, and we would do our all team training. And
You mean your drinking party in the
our
woods?
drinking party. Yeah. We were allowed, because it was now off duty.
Yeah.
And we would be taking our department vehicles out to the middle of nowhere.
Fun.
Yeah. And then training all day and then drinking all night.
Yeah.
So this happened.
Yeah.
Do I think it should be allowed to happen? I don't know. Do I think a couple beers at the end of tough training like that is a good idea? I do. But it's also taxpayer money and government funded and all that type of stuff. So there's that tricky aspect. And again, I'm a political activist now, and I don't want to see waste, but I do want to see teams and good team building.
Yeah.
So that aspect, I don't know how to bridge, but it's more about the excessive drinking.
Well, you have to think the culture that has been ingrained in these boys and women, right?
Little boys.
Yeah.
That's all we are. We're just little boys that run around.
Yeah, but it's
Just kidding.
The culture is that I'm unwinding.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit.
No.
I don't drink. What do you, what?
No.
But then I do. I think like, okay, I get it. Like I'm a high ball of energy. Like I totally understand what
Right.
you're unwinding. I totally get that. I get wound up for no reason. I get it. But there has to be a different way and a safer way.
Drinking is the worst fucking thing on the planet to deal with your emotions.
I agree.
I
agree.
It was my go-to back in the day. It's what I used to do when we'd have squad parties. What did we do? We drank. When we got together as a squad, what did we do? We drank and drank and drank.
It's one of the most dangerous things to detox from.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
let's be real.
It's one of the only ones you can actually die from.
Right. So I mean, if the use of something else were allowed, and the reason I went to using something like gummies or even entertaining the idea when I have never dabbled in any kind of drug ever was that I already have to take so many medications for other health reasons. I didn't want to have Xanax in my bag. Like, I didn't want to feel like I had to have all of these prescription drugs inside me. Was cannabis the right thing? I don't know. Like, does that look better? To me, it did. Right? Like, to me, it was manageable.
Yeah.
To me, it was manageable.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. And it's a natural derivative of the earth. To me, it's like coffee.
Have you given speeches after taking a gummy?
No, not yet.
Okay.
No. But to me, I always use the comparison of like, I don't drink a whole lot of like 5-hour energy.
Mm-hmm.
I never have actually, or a Red Bull. I drink coffee.
Same.
It's naturally derived from the earth. I know what it is. I don't want to put something that's like a chemical from somewhere else inside me. It's just weird.
No, I agree 100%. And I actually got off of opioids way faster than my surgeon wanted me to, because I'm like going, I can't stand taking chemicals.
Yeah.
And this is, again, where I go on my soapbox again. It's like, how many people have died from Xanax overdoses? A lot. And alcohol and the downward spiral of alcohol. And I'm going to go ahead and assume that his drinking probably has gone up over the years.
Yeah.
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 Mine did as well.
It's just something, it's like something to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where cannabis, yes, you build up a tolerance with cannabis, just like anything. But when you're able to function and think and be in touch with your emotions, as opposed to numbing your emotions.
It actually brings clarity to mind.
Yes.
And instead of the opposite, which alcohol is doing,
Yes.
it's like a numbing the mind. So that's where I feel like it would be a benefit. I don't actually know the state you're implying to that has allowed this for the officers, but
New Jersey.
thank you. I can only imagine the benefit that it would bring to the, like, shit. If the departments aren't going to do anything, then our like legislation here can do something. Jeez.
Trust me, I'm working on
it.
Because Post sets the rules.
Right.
So Post sets the rules, and Post has now relaxed it. Oh, you cannot have used it within, I believe,
X
the last
amount of-
2 years.
yeah.
It's like you could have used it now, but now you have to be 2 years clean and sober.
Before it was like,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It was very, very
I remember,
restricted.
yeah.
I can tell you that between 8 of 95 and June of 2000, I smoked weed no more than 10 times for experimental
I
purposes
remember.
only.
I remember
You know?
when he took the test.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta come up with a bullshit concrete answer of I only did this to that, and that was it. And
And he was
only to experiment.
21.
Right.
And I'm like,
But I got shit-faced drunk last night and got plastered out of my mind. That's no problem.
That's fine.
That's no problem. I had Mike Crawford on. He's running for sheriff.
Yeah.
I've already released that one. We talked about the fact that for 15 years, he was taking 7 Vicodin a day.
yeah.
And was completely allowed to. Now, I don't think officers should be able to use on duty, obviously, but I don't have a problem with a microdose. If it was completely understood, like I said, we're not there yet. We're just even
Right.
allowing officers to just use
It.
And I want to jump up and down and say, listen, you crusty old fucks, it's not the devil's lettuce. The black men are not going to come and have sex with the white women because,
But what's the difference
you know,
in a microdose if you can take Xanax and all of these other
Right.
things that affect you the same way?
I agree.
What is the difference?
There is none.
It's in your bloodstream. What's the difference? What it is in your bloodstream? Like, the half-life of all of these things is going to be different. You pull my blood today, you pull my blood tomorrow, you're going to find something.
Yes.
So tell me what the difference is in cannabis or Xanax today or whatever fuck else I took. That on the bottle says, do not operate heavy
Right.
machinery. I fucking drove here today.
There
And I'm
is no
fine.
difference.
Has anything happened today where you're like, D, you should not be here?
No, not at all.
That's my point. Like, if someone can function as a norm, and I'm not saying like, I know alcoholics and drug addicts can function as normal humans. I get that. But I'm just saying that there is normalcy in medication.
Yes.
It is a medication.
Yes.
And
Yes, it is.
if we maintain record and we maintain care and we're seeing providers just like it's what's that other stuff they do?
Ayahuasca, DMT.
Yeah, I mean, you name it. Like there's so many different
Psilocybin.
therapies.
Yeah, ketamine.
like ketamine.
Yeah.
There's so many therapies. So how is this not?
Is this particular department doing anything with ketamine therapy?
I know that there's providers that do ketamine therapy. I don't know that it's like from the department.
Because I do know of a police department in the East Valley that has actually sent their people to ketamine therapy, department ordered. So that's a step in the right direction as far as, but I don't know anything enough about ketamine therapy personally.
I know that I have a friend that owns a ketamine clinic, I would call it.
Gotcha.
But I don't know that the department is like referring specifically to someone, or if they just have providers that they work with or know of. I don't know the specifics behind it, but I do know that there's people that go see people for ketamine therapy,
which I'm 100% for.
Yeah,
I'm for psilocybin. I'm for MDMA.
I'm for it. I think that it needs to be in conjunction with therapy.
Amen. Amen.
I don't think you can go have these therapies, ketamine therapy, cannabis. I don't think you can do any of this without traditional therapy. I think that you need to be talking to someone. So I don't think it's like a do one and done. And I think a lot of these guys that talk amongst themselves think that they're like, oh, you went and did this. Awesome. I'm going to do it too. I think that that's a lot of where we also get in trouble. And us as wives, or me maybe as a wife, I hear some of this and I'm like, oh, wait. I think you need to talk also.
Yes.
Not just to me.
Yes.
Thank you for talking to me, but you need to talk with someone, a professional. I think it would be wise to talk through some of your problems and also do the other therapy. Like, let's be real.
Nothing makes you feel better than talking. It sucks to admit stuff and deal with it.
Yeah.
And like, again, part of the problem, like on the cannabis side of the house is it's Schedule 1, not Schedule 2. They can't prescribe it. Doctors won't prescribe it because they're going to lose their DEA licenses if they prescribe medication.
Yep.
So that's why. And the other problem is there's not enough research to understand dosages.
Right.
No medical doctor understands a dosage of cannabis.
No.
None. They have no clue what it is. Us that use it understand it way better than a medical doctor. I was just going to say,
except we can order on the internet from multiple people or companies. We can figure out what works well for us.
People were drug dealers back in the day. Now it's a company.
Yeah, the companies are actually pretty cool. We know who we want to order from and who we don't, and who's reputable and who's not. And we figure out what works well for us. What works well for me is way lower than what works well for my best friend. And I would never take what she has, ever. I would be a loose cannon. But we know that.
Yeah. Trial and error.
Yeah.
It's all trial and error.
And so it's like, how have they not tested to figure this out yet? But we can do it in the comfort of our home.
Because it's the federal government propaganda bullshit. I know you know this, but it's just like that's the problem. And again, I drank the Kool-Aid when I was a cop. But at the same time, I was very lenient when it came to cannabis because I did not understand the psychological positive aspects of it at all. I did not understand that at all until I had it. I just thought it made you feel high, made you feel good, relaxed, and then with the back pain. But then when I started getting into the medical world and understanding it, it was like, holy shit, there's some stuff to hear. Yeah. There's some things. And like, why can we not allow officers to use it? Like, I want somebody to actually explain to me, why is alcohol okay and cannabis is not? And if they say we need more research, I want to fucking hit them, because how many people have died from cannabis? 0. Nobody will answer this question. Yeah. They don't have the balls to. Right. They won't answer it. They won't step out and make a policy change that could potentially help officers.
It's frightening.
Yep.
It's frightening.
And what's going to happen, like we said already, it's going to have worse and worse outcomes. Worse and worse outcomes with the public. It's going to cost taxpayers more money in lawsuits. You know, looking at the big grand total of a society, you're going to have less and less people that want to be officers. We're very fortunate that Arizona is a very law enforcement friendly state. Excuse me.
Still right now.
Still right. You're in 2023.
Yeah.
But that's going to change.
Yes.
Phoenix PD is running wild right now with scandals.
Yeah.
They're running wild with scandals, and they're running wild with corruption.
I thought Mesa was too.
I got a lot of Mesa friends, and I haven't heard anything personally. Like, maybe there is, I don't know.
Yeah.
But Dave Biscobing with ABC 15, man, but he points out all of the wrongdoings of law enforcement. And it's like, you know what? If we just had good officers, your captains and your sergeants and your upper echelon people, they start off as officers. If we can get those people healthy mentally and on the right track, and as they progress through those careers, they're going to be looking down saying, how can I help those guys out?
Yeah.
And we're going to build from the foundation up better officers. We're going to build from the foundation up better law enforcement, more community involvement, less domestic violences with their wives. Like, this is all fucking possible. It's doable.
Yeah, but guess what? There's not the right people.
There's not the right people
at the top.
And they get trapped in the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
They get trapped in the pay.
Yeah.
And they just get stuck as company men and women.
Men and women. Yeah. You have a big job in front of you right now.
No. My job is to get wives and spouses together. My job is to get them together and to give you all a voice.
I will be an advocate for you for whatever you need and whenever you need it.
Let's get it done.
Yep.
Because I would still be a police officer to this day if what had not happened to me, but I also wouldn't be the person who I was right now if it would not have happened.
Yeah.
I wish I could have had the compassion and caring and empathy that I have now back then, but that comes with growth. That comes with maturity. And I want the officers, I'm sure you've heard the joke, pardon me for the most profound or disgusting joke on the planet, the young bull and the young bull and the old bull.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Stop me if you've heard this, but and I didn't get the joke, and it's a movie reference from the 80s. There's a young bull and an old bull standing on top of a hill overlooking a herd of female cows, and the young bull says, "Dad, let's run down there and have our way with one of those cows." And the dad says, "No, son, let's walk down there and have them all." Age, patience, maturity, let's not rush into things.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back. Slow. Yeah. Let's have some maturity and growth and look at the whole person.
Yeah. It's going to be a long road.
It is. And my heart hurts for all of the officers that suffer in silence. I just saw this morning 93 police officers committed suicide.
Yeah.
This year, so far in 2023. And it's the sort of thing where I don't fault them for committing suicide, but I do fault the officer who's sitting and suffering in silence and not saying anything. Those people didn't see a way out. They didn't see a way out, and that's tragic, and that's sad, and that's terrible, and that's not the way it should have been. But we need to get these officers to stop suffering in silence. We need to get them to speak out. We need to get them to be an advocate for themselves. You got an officer that'll show up on a scene and be an advocate for the victim.
Yep.
But they won't be an advocate for themselves.
Nope. Yeah. I want to do anything and everything I possibly can, and I want to shout it, like I said, from a mountaintop to whoever I need to make change for the law enforcement community and for any public service. Like I said, our oldest is a EMT, putting herself through school to be a paramedic.
That's awesome.
And plenty of friends and family that are firefighters and police officers. And something's got to give. But I always go back to, I've told my own husband, gosh, I hope you never roll up on me on the side of the road, because I feel like I would just be a job. And he has said before, like, I can't believe you've said that to me. And I'm like, but really, like, I would. You'd get the job done first.
Yes.
And he's like, I can't believe you would say that. And I'm like, but hun, that's how hardened you are to me. You need to recognize what I just said to you. So I do see, I am speaking when I see the, like, I am not one of the guys sitting next to him. And when I do see the glassed over eyes of someone that has zero emotion left in them, I'm not afraid to say, like, hey, friend, like, do you need to talk?
No.
Because they're afraid to say that to each other.
Oh, 100%. 100. That
Like,
those conversations never happened.
Yeah, hey, dude, are you okay?
Maybe immediately after.
But not after that.
Right. And it's just more of that checking on the nerves and like, hey, dude,
Yeah,
you
are
okay?
you okay?
But not after that.
Not after that.
Ever.
But I'm not afraid. Like, they didn't look right this weekend. Is everything okay with them? Like, they seemed off. Oh yeah, no, they're fine. No, they're not. But they're not.
Every wife is going to cover for their husbands.
Yeah, I won't.
Good. Well, good. That's a good thing.
I won't, because I've got to live with it. And I certainly won't cover for him, and I won't cover for myself with him. Like, I will say it how it is, and I want other people to feel safe doing that. And if you ever saw him, I want you to be like, yo, dude, you don't look okay.
No.
And that's what I want to become normal.
Amen.
It has to.
Amen.
If my daughter does not look okay,
Speak up.
I want someone to tell me. I want them to tell her. I want, like, someone say something and make it normal to tell people they need to go get help and give them a resource. Even if it's like, at this point, if departments are not going to do anything, then we need to build a community of people that we can just start to, like, have as our army of resources to say, we trust you, we love you, and this is where we're going to send our people because they need something.
No. Amen.
Yeah.
I cannot thank you enough for coming on, and you spoke extraordinarily openly about it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
I appreciate you for doing this. Thank you for having me.
You do run a podcast. What's your podcast?
It's called The Life Agency.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can people get you through there on Instagram if they want to reach you? Because spouses are going to hear this. I am actually now law enforcement heavy on my viewership and all that type of stuff. So this is going to go out to other, people. And how can they? Would you be okay with them DMing you and messaging you and all that?
Yeah. So I actually do a podcast. It's called At the Life Agency WTF.
Okay.
Our husbands have actually been on.
Okay.
My best friend is the other co-host, and she is a law enforcement wife also. And we're not law enforcement heavy on there, but it's a lot of fun. And we actually do interview some people, and it's we have a segment called Inspiring Others.
Okay.
So that's one of our more inspirational segments. And then we have just a lot of fun chit-chatting back and forth.
This takes a lot of courage to come and talk about, though.
Yeah.
It really does. It really, really does. And this is for all of the spouses to come.
Yeah.
And the spouses that are dealing with it now. And you said, I've got a heavy load. No. You've got a heavy load as well, because this takes a lot of courage. And I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. I encourage any wife out there to reach out to this podcast,
Absolutely.
reach out to ours.
100%.
I'm happy to talk to anyone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. If I somehow managed to keep your attention throughout this entire thing and you're actually watching this ending, thank you. I just wanted to add on to the end of the video here that, again, there are some police departments that are doing things. I've sat down and had conversations with Matt Thomas of Pinal County, and they have implemented systems. And this video is not to say that any one department is doing better than the other, but it's just undeniable the fact that they're just not doing enough. And the overriding thing is that I have a laundry list of officers that tell me they can't go to their departments and tell them what's going on because they are terrified of losing their jobs and losing their positions. And most importantly, basically being kicked out of the family. Not understanding the fact that sometimes it needs to happen in order to grow. I'm living proof of that. But again, this is for all of the officers, and I've said officers, and I mean EMS as a whole in the first responder world. Again, it's just my background. I'm just heavy on the law enforcement side, so I don't mean to exclude anybody. Basically, anybody that deals with trauma on a regular basis. And that's not to say that people who have dealt with trauma don't deserve services. No, they absolutely do. But I'm talking about our first responders that are just constantly being inundated with trauma. So, again, this video is not meant, this podcast was not meant to piss anybody off. It's meant to help give departments and agencies an introspective look and to hear from the spouses. That's where you're going to get your most forward progression is through the spouses. So, thank you very much, everyone. Take care.